Today I'm be showing you how to build Wolverine for ultimate difficulty, also how you could tweak it for heroic difficulty. Now, the build doesn't change much throughout difficulties, but let's jump right into how to build it for ultimate difficulty. We're going to start by taking 2 copies of Lethal Pounce, a very good card, especially when you add 50% bonus damage. So, when you use this, besides the occasional time when you're just cleaning up and taking out 2 enemies, you're targeting one of the higher health enemies that you want to take on next with a quick attack, and you're going to get your strengthened off that enemy. At hero level 25, you're dealing somewhere around 750 to 900 damage on a crit. At hero level 50, you're dealing over 1,000 damage with Lethal Pounce. Lethal Pounce is a very powerful card once you put it on, and you also want to use it as your opener, because once you have that strengthened, it makes eviscerate crazy, but we'll get into that in a moment. Next up, we're going to take 1 copy of Rapid Healing. Now, if you're playing above your level and you're constantly still going down and really struggling with like 1 teammate surviving, then you could go with 2 copies of Rapid Healing and 1 copy of Stink of Fear. But I feel like if you're needing 2 copies of Rapid Healing, you also need to turn down the difficulty 1 level until you get your levels up just a little bit more. You shouldn't need 2 copies of Rapid Healing. Now, this card is playable when Wolverine is unable to act. You don't need it in your current hand to play it. So if Wolverine goes down, you can play this card. After the enemy goes, when you get back up, assuming you still have players alive, you can use this card instead of a revive. So you should not need 2 copies of Rapid Healing. Now, once you use this, if you use it in the playable when he is unable to act manner, then it does exalt, so you will not have it again. If you're not playing on Ultimate 3 and he goes down a second time, you could still use a standard revive if you have one, and if you use that, not only does he revive, but he gets his Rapid Healing card back. So 2 copies of this card is just excessive. For the bonus, we are going to put on redraw, gain concealed, because a lot of times we're not actually using it to restore health. If we use it for anything, it's probably for the cure. And we're more likely just strategically redrawing this to gain concealed. And if he happens to go down from being too aggressive with counters, then we will just play the card and get him back up and be a little bit more cautious. And because of how good this card is, I like to use 2 Stink of Fears free. And I won't take on the whole board on an Ultimate 340. I'll be a little bit more strategic and try to take out as the weaker ones and just counter as much as I can. And there also is the 1 swap out. You could do a Power Slash forcible knockback with quick, adding 1 vulnerable, and if you do this and you do 1 Stink of Fear and 1 Power Slash, use the Power Slash to target the next big enemy that you're trying to take down with a quick attack or just take down in general, and try to use the knockback to get a little enemy so you don't waste a move, you do a little bit of damage, and you apply vulnerable to the next target you're trying to take out. So Power Slash is a really good card. I've moved on to using 2 Stink of Fears, but you could very well use 2 Power Slashes or split it 1 and 1. The radius on this isn't bad. It does apply weak, and with that weak and the counter and his ability to regen through the cards or using Rapid Healing, with his ability to regen if he does go down, regardless if this is in your hand, I went with the Stink of Fear to be a little bit more aggressive and just pull the aggro towards him so the other heroes don't need conceal, and they can play more aggressively. Next up, we're going to take Midnight Special. Now, there's two acceptable bonuses for this. You could do Apply Vulnerability. Now, Apply Vulnerability applies on every hit. So if you use Midnight Special when you have 8 or 10 stored up, then if he doesn't kill the enemy, he's going to apply Vulnerability. And then when he circles back to that enemy, he's going to deal 50% more damage. The other acceptable option is Bleed. That way, all the enemies you don't kill do take a nice chunk of damage on the next turn. And lastly, we have Eviscerate. Probably the best special common or best heroic common in the game. With 50% bonus damage on a critical, this thing is absolutely insane, especially if you've already strengthened it with Lethal Pounce. This can deal at like hero level 50. You're dealing 2,000 plus damage on a critical with Eviscerate. And it's a chain 4, so you can pick one target or split your damage between 4 targets. Generally, I like to re-roll this and try to get the criticals. It's okay. It's pretty good actually as a non-crit. But if you get this as a crit, it's just crazy. And any KO is giving you a counter, which is another reason you don't need to go with the Stink of Fear. You should be able to always get a kill with Eviscerate. I kind of use this more for the weak and just inflict damage. So like I'll group up and I'll target like 6-7 enemies, or as many enemies as I can without taking on to the point where I know I'm going to go down. And with that weak, I can generally counter, and sometimes, you know, it's a good idea too to just target everybody and then conceal. That is an excellent strategy as well. I do that all the time as well. But otherwise, for heroic difficulty, there's not much else you would change. You might not even need the rapid healing, honestly, depending on what difficulty you're playing on. You might want to just go with the draw card and the life gain and put +4 heroic on that in its place. Personally, I kind of try to stay away from those cards, and I like to use as many cards as possible. More often than getting overloaded with cards, besides a couple of character groupings, I end up with plays remaining and no cards to play. And on the next turn, I'm going to get a handful of cards for free. So I don't need to put in a plus gain 2 cards with life gain when I have rapid healing and I can make enemies weak. But you don't also need that if you're not taking much damage and your weak is making them to the point where their hits are like, I don't know, thimble, something light hitting you. Anyway, that is the best way that you can build him for ultimate, and how you could tweak it a little bit if you're playing on heroic. If you found the build helpful, like, share, comment. It does help other people find the build. I hope that helped.